In the previous video, we talked about string slicing, and it's a really simple technique to do. It requires very, very little code, it's very fast, it's very simple. Now, actual uses might be harder for you to come up with, but there should be one really obvious one. When we talked about the stride, did you make that connection to mirror writing? Because that's what we did essentially. So if we have a string and we define how much of it we want, with mirror writing we really want the whole string, right? So the thing about mirror writing is instead of writing it forward, we want to write it backward. And when we talked about the stride, we could skip letters or characters or index values because the spaces count, but we could also go in reverse, and we could skip letters in reverse too if we wanted to, although that's not exactly what we're going to do with mirror writing, but we could also just go in reverse by -1. So previously, this is what we did for our mirror writing cipher, and it made sense at the time. Like, this was a logical step using what we had already learned with the for loops. However, we could do this much more simply now that we've looked at string slicing. So if I just open a new document, and I do more or less the same thing, so we can say clear text equals input. What is your message? So instead of using an empty string for ciphertext that we then fill character by character, I can just decide exactly what the ciphertext is right now. It's going to equal clear text, 2 colons with a stride of -1. We're not putting any values in here or here because we don't want it to start at a certain place or end at a certain place. We want it to do the whole string, right? So all we have to do is just set the stride to -1, and then we can tell it to print the ciphertext, and that's really all we need to do. That right there is a mirror writing cipher, 1 line of code, and a bit more efficient because we're not having to use some sort of for loop for each character, and we're not having to reassign this variable for each character in it. All it does is it just rewrites it backwards. So more efficient both in number of lines as well as on the actual processor itself. Although, I mean, doing something this simple isn't really a big deal, but still, it's a decent thing to think about and to be aware of. So let's go ahead and save this. I will call this mirror writing 2.py. And we can open the terminal. So change our directory to the desktop. And then we will call the program in Python 3, which it is called mirror writing 2.py. Message is hello world, and there we go. Written backwards, 1 line of code. Can't be much simpler than that.